This episode of Star Trek Picard is called Absolute Candor. We'll talk about it in just a second. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and there was a line by Zani, kind of the mother superior of the Qowat Milat, a sisterhood of fighting Romulans. It's kind of an odd group. It's kind of like a monastery, and it is, as monasteries tend to be, they kind of go against the usual way society works, to be more focused on one better aspect. And the title of the episode, Absolute Candor, is what they're all about, where Romulans are very secretive and even more secretive than they ought to be. The Qowat Milat are a group of people who believe in absolute candor, and they have this sign to each other, which is like an open book. The idea that you know everything that we're thinking because we're going to tell you. We're going to be absolutely honest with you, because not to be would be against the whole idea of the order. And that's kind of interesting as we approach Picard. And one thing that Zanny said to her is, your problem is that the perfect is the enemy of the good. And she is pointing out the basic flaw in our character of Picard in the 20 years since we've seen him last. And that is that he is such an idealist that when he didn't get his way with Starfleet to do what he thought was the right thing, that he resigned instead of trying to work within the system to at least do something. And it was basically my way or the highway as the way his idea stream worked. And this decision that he made 14 years ago to Starfleet was probably the worst decision he ever made in his career. He was thinking that he could get his way just by threatening to resign, and they said, well, go ahead and resign. We're not going to do it your way. And had he not put it to this very personal me or nothing idea, he might have been able to work within the system. As it is, by sticking to his principle of insisting on the perfect over the good, he it caused Rafi to lose her job, and then never talk to her because he was so ashamed of himself for being out of Starfleet or something. And in this case, the planet Vashti, which was one of the settlement planets, when the Klingons went from their home world and the huge ships that Picard had something to do with building. And they show a flashback where he gets the news that Mars has been attacked by the synths. And that's the last time he sees Elnor, who is a young Romulan, who is an orphan, who has lost his parents in the big move and is staying with the sisterhood, the Qowat Milat. Picard promises Elnor that he will find him a better place. He will find him a family to be with. And 14 years later, we find that he has completely ignored them. Now, we don't know if he had the means by which to go to the Beta Quadrant in the years after he was out of Starfleet, or if he had no way to communicate with these people across interstellar distances after he ceased to become an admiral in Starfleet. But he did the same thing that he did to Rafi. He basically said, well, if I can't do it all, I'm going to do nothing. And doing nothing was not the right thing to do, apparently, in this situation, certainly, and in the case of Rafi as well. And so we're starting to see this picture of Picard the idealist who's not acting in his own best interest or the best interest of those that he was trying to help. And that seems to be what this is about in Absolute Candor. There's another scene where we have a little more of Soji and Navek and his sister, who are giving me the serious Game of Thrones vibes between Cersei and her brother, but they don't do anything specific there, but they sure act like they have more than a brother-sister relationship. But the whole idea of the Qowat Milat, in addition to having this absolute candor, also are fighters, and they have a code by which they will fight for someone who has a lost cause. And when Picard finds Elnor grown and not liking him very much because he promised to come back and then just never did, after being such a father figure to him in the years before he left Starfleet, that he resents Picard as well for not paying any more attention to him or to doing anything that he promised. One thing that Zani, the Mother Superior, or whatever they called her, said was, a promise is a prison. And so his promises made imprisoned the people who thought that he was going to help them later. And he turns out not helping them at all because he couldn't help them his way. A very strong episode here, and we have some good dogfight scenes from the ship, and at the very end we see 7 of 9, which sets up for next week's episode. So that's my thoughts on Absolute Candor. I hope that you will subscribe if you haven't done so, and ring the bell so you'll know when the next video comes your way. And of course, we'll have the next Doctor Who episode coming up later before the end of the weekend. So please leave your comments below. We always like to hear from you, what you think about this. I want to know what you think about this particular episode of Picard. And until next time, don't go far.